on the campus. And we get word now of the beginnings of a really racist counter-mobilization aimed at repudiating the suggestions, the demands that the students have made for how to implement a better campus climate. So the situation really is polarizing between the people who see these outbreaks of racist hostility as a problem or an embarrassment and people who are prepared to defend them.
And the fact that UC San Diego has the smallest percentage of African-American students in the 9-campus UC system, Fanon, do you think that this has anything to do with what's going on right now?
Most definitely. The UC president, Mark Yudof, addressed to the chancellor in June that she needed to fix the situation for African-American students on the campus, because although these incidents are coming to light now, a lot of incidents like this have happened in the past, and it's just a very hostile environment for African-American students and underrepresented students on an everyday basis in the previous years. So I think that her lack of action to Mark Yudof telling her to take action in June is why we are in the state we are now, as well as the Black Student Union wrote a report called the Do You See Us report in September and talked about, there was testimonies talking about how bad the climate was for African-American students and made recommendations on how to fix that back in September.
And Professor Widener, what do you think of the administration's response and what needs to be done right now?
Initially, when asked, I called the administration's response tepid, and I'd like to stand by that statement. I think that the university has recognized that there's a problem, but it has yet to commit itself fully to implementing the kinds of solutions that have been laid out, not simply by the students in their Do You See Us document, which does have testimony, which does have suggestions, but also a history of reports initiated by Latino faculty, by African-American faculty, by multi-ethnic groups of faculty. There was a 2007 yield report aimed at democratizing and diversifying the campus. So this has been a subject of study, but it's never been a situation where the university would commit itself to allocating resources, funding students, scholarships for students, outreach and yield, and the kinds of things that would produce a student body, a population reflective of our state, reflective of the diversity of our state, and where the students would not feel outnumbered. We should not have a situation where every student knows every other student by name. This is not a small liberal arts college. We have 24,000 undergraduates. So I think that the research has been done. The question is whether or not the university has the will to make the choices that will prevent these kinds of incidents in the future and in the present.
And the significance of, well, this being a decade after a California ballot proposition barred the use of race and ethnicity in admissions decisions. University of California continues to struggle to diversify its campuses. Black and Latino enrollment has plummeted.
Yes, I think that it has to be said that the students have launched a battle against the resegregation of higher education. It's a battle that's tied to the privatization of higher education, the idea that only those who can afford a top-grade education should receive one, and that those should be the people who are the doctors, the attorneys, the chemists, and the other professional class for the future. And what the students have put on the line is the idea that a 60 or 70-year-old African-American man could have a doctor who looks like him to talk about prostate cancer with, that a Latina who's accused of a crime could have an attorney who could communicate with her in her defense, that these students are fighting not just for the UC campuses, not just for UC San Diego, but for the future of people of color in this state. And I think that it's very important that people throughout the country try to do what they can to mobilize to help us, whether that's emailing our chancellor at ucsd.edu, calling her office at 858-534-3135, or looking at a website that the students have put out called StopRacismUSD.org. ucsd.wordpress.com. These are all things that people can do immediately now to help us build pressure for change.
And Fanon, finally, there are major protests planned. Is this right for Thursday?
Thursday's March 4th, which is actually a statewide day of action for educational justice and educational equality. It's been planned for months now, and so we definitely think that the situation that's at hand right now with the campus climate at UCSD ties in to March 4th and what March 4th is standing for and what it's fighting for.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining us, Professor Widener, Daniel Widener, Associate Professor of History and Faculty Director of the African American Studies minor at UC San Diego, and Fanon Kavlevzegi, co-chair of the UC San Diego Black Student Union. Thank you for joining us. This is Democracy Now! Back in a minute.